La 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 la. Hey guys, so today is June 19th, 2018. It's Juneteenth. So we're going to do some talking about uh, Juneteenth on this Juneteenth, uh, 2 days after Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day to all the daddies out there. And we're going to try and cover as much, not a lot, but it's going to be a half an hour today. We're going to try and cover as much good energy about the day that we should try and bring about. And we're going to do that with my nephew, and T. So let's see what we get. I think they're coming in now. All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Hurry, hurry. All right, so are we ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Back up in the building, Honorable Philosophy Flaw. One more time, kick some knowledge for y'all. The boy T Wills.
All right, so I'm Truist. This is Intergalactic, the podcast. We're talking about Juneteenth on this Juneteenth. January, June 19th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, it was a little before June 19th, but he signs the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all slaves in the United States of America. And it takes, I want to say, 3 months before everybody's found out about this. So he has a general whose name I forget, and his charge go through Texas telling people that slavery is over. There have been questions as to why this took so long. Some people say that the slave masters waited till the harvest came in. Some people say that the American military couldn't enforce this law. I mean, you could drop an edict, but if no one is there to ensure that the edict is obeyed, the hell with your edict, I guess.
And a lot of those places was deep in the South, so there wasn't a lot of places.
It's, I forgot my train of thought. So there was at least 4 reasons why people think that the proclamation wasn't adhered to when it was first sent out. One of those reasons was also the communication railway systems. They thought after the war were cut down in some places for firewood, just to mess with communications among the war. So that's another reason they think they couldn't get a carrier pigeon or a rider. And one is just that the person who was sent with this message, the first Southerner he told that he had this message, they killed him so he could tell nobody else. But no matter what it is, these are generally the 4 main reasons why people think that people weren't all freed at the exact same time. So Juneteenth, the way it was always celebrated where I come from, was the whole month of June, especially June 13th through the 19th, those 7 days. But if you celebrate one day, it's June 19th, and it's Freedom Day. So we're going to talk a little Freedom Day with the guys. Let's hear it. Thanks for being on the podcast. This is Intergalactic. Introduce yourselves as always.
Honorable Philosophy Flaw.
T Wills from the P.
All right, y'all got to talk a little clearer. So you guys got any stories about Juneteenth you guys want to share? Any nice memories? Anything that you might think would be nice on this day? I think a giant parade would be nice on this day. Can you
giant
imagine?
Oh, yeah.
Every black neighborhood having a parade would be.
Something like the 4th of July.
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
folks.
exactly.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that.
You know, we used to celebrate this day a lot, but every time it rolled around, the forces of the South would snuff it out, kill people, riot up and disrupt, burn, you know.
That's crazy.
So people, I mean, you can't, it's hard to celebrate freedom when people are trying to kill you, right? So then it had a reawakening, if I'm right, around Dr. King's day when he tried to get black people off their bellies and on their feet, right? So people began to revive the day. Yeah, so June 19th.
Yeah, it was the reason why I feel like that the people they broke it up is because they were celebrating Juneteenth in the South, and the South was still on their Confederate stuff.
Exactly.
So it wasn't enough
I agree.
Union people, that's Union soldiers or Union anybody down there to enforce the laws of what they just had accomplished.
But you know what happens when they left? So, you know, what good is an army? Because an army's gonna have to leave.
Yeah, exactly. That's
You know
what I'm
what I mean?
saying. So they were still. So even when they left, it was like the Union people was like, man, we still gonna enforce our, you know what I mean, our rules. You know what I mean, to an extent. You know what I
Right.
mean. They still just carried it how they wanted to carry it. You
Right.
know? Then they invented other ways to get at you. You know what I mean. Besides, you know,
Yeah.
legal slavery. You know.
Yeah, Jim
That's
Crow.
true.
and-
Yeah, exactly.
right. For every, like I tell people, for every law that they pass for, you know, fairness, someone passed 10,000 tiny little laws where you couldn't do anything, and essentially it muted that major law.
Exactly.
It's the policy. So on this day, oddly enough, slightly connected to Juneteenth, America has opted to get out of the UN I'm about to say peacekeeping, the UN Human Rights Council, and I thought that was interesting on this day, a day where some people could argue that the alt-right who some believe put Donald Trump in office, this was sort of like a signal to them of, you know, sort of, I think it's a little paranoid, but at the same time, do you really want to say the hell with human rights on like this day where you held these people for like 300 years in the most abject and ridiculous?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
to me,
Oh,
that
Wait.
to me it just shows that they don't care. You know what I mean? To me, you know. So
Yeah.
They don't look at it like it's for them. They look at it like it's for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. What do you think?
Yeah.
Real talk. So, for the fact that we are talking about Juneteenth, they probably not even thinking about it. You know?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. So what then? They don't like it. They don't have to like it. We should respect it. What should we be doing?
Exactly.
When they come through to disrupt the party like they used to,
We should
what
go-
should we do about it? You know, all these things being the kind of, if
we get smarter
you
though.
respect the day, then how do you honor the day? If you respect the dead, your ancestors, how do you honor the day for your ancestors? All these
Well,
things.
I honor my ancestors every day by doing things that I feel like would honor them.
Like
So,
what?
Like working hard, not
All day.
knocking people inside their heads. You know what I mean? Not
Got to be
being
ready.
typical what they expect, what the society expects me to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Using my mind, thinking. You know, those are the things that I feel like my ancestors would want out of me. You know, they spend a lot of time in them cotton fields. So,
This is the truth.
so it's like, yo, we living out they dreams. You know what I mean? So somebody in that cotton field thought, yo, my great grandson or my grandson or somebody gonna be free one day. And we that one day. We that
I know,
somebody.
but what do you
one
do
day.
with this freedom that everyone's talking about? You know,
What?
My whole thing is the lack of loyalty to your own that makes me crazy. You know, it's the idea that I grew up and look, there were problems with my childhood, right? And when I say my childhood, I mean like kids of my generation, right? There were problems. You know, I remember. Let's talk about drinking. I remember sitting on somebody's lap. I forget whose lap. I must not have been any bigger, you know, than 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
And all the adults was around. I think they were either playing cards or talking smoke or whatever. And smoking, drinking. The kids around the lap. No one cared about the smoke or the drink. And you'd want some of what they were drinking. And what they, I remember what he did was he dipped his finger in like his alcohol. And put it on. It wasn't me. It was another kid younger than me, and they're like, "Whoa!" They didn't want it anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's not abuse so much as if you just said no, you get a lot of screaming and crying and you got to pick up and take the kid from the table. Versus disciplining that kid right there in the moment. Versus all this, Timmy gets a timeout, you know, or this whole thing. The adults are over here and the kids are over there unto themselves. You know, it was always a braid. It was always a woven thing. It was always the men, the women, the children, woven in this braid. So the only thing that you really weren't supposed to see men and women do were men and women stuff, essentially.
Exactly.
But the whole, you know, smoking, drink, everybody sort of knew where everybody fell in like this group that they hung out in, and there was a ton of kids around. You know,
I feel like the crazy thing about that is, it's still like that in your urban household. Hold on, listen to what I'm saying. Follow me. Now, if you go to your more urban households, like basically the projects, these people aren't hiding these things from their kids. Like you said, when they smoking and drinking and partying, their kids is right there with them on their lap, rocking them to sleep. You feel what I'm saying? It's the more thinking type people, or I would say that the more upper scale type people that try to separate their kids from the adult things, you know. So
from what I call the truth of life.
And, and the fact
a good point.
And you know what I feel like what makes it like that on the low is because when you have a little bit of money, you can afford somebody to watch the kids. You know what I mean? So it's like if you can't never afford nobody.
Children is a myth. A lot of people don't like. It's like you can't say. I don't know. I'm blanking.
If you look
now,
back to those Woodstock videos, there's people with kids right on their hips, babies on their hips. You know what I mean? Doing whatever, like you said, doing whatever. You know what I mean?
But I'm not talking about a party. I'm talking about like just your natural form of living your life, like cars or watching TV. There were always kids and women and exactly. They were your kids. They were part of the tribe. It was.
I grew up like that.
All this weirdness of sequestration, which I see all around me. This fake piety of people who, as soon as the camera's off them, are up to all sorts of shadiness and no goodness. You know, fucking the babysitter and all this kind of nonsense. Look, and again, those people, those 60s people, like they were sexual, and they weren't. Well, what's the word for it? They weren't not ownership, but they weren't possessive.
Exactly.
Like, oh, well, she wants to bump with her, then let her go, right? And then she goes, maybe I shouldn't have bumped with this guy. I like this guy. So then people kind of split off in these weird ways, all around the children, though, right? And I don't know, man.
When I grew up, my mom took us everywhere with her. It was well, me and my sister was the same age, and my brother was too old to hang out, so he was too cool for school. But me and my sister, when she had to go to the nail salon, we was sitting right there. If she had to go wherever she went, we went. You know what I mean? A lot of these younger girls, you know what I mean, don't like to have their kids with them like that. They'll drop them off with anybody. You know what I mean? So, to me, it taught you something because it's like when we was, like you said, with drinking. When we was growing up, it was normal for your parents to go to a party and drink and you be around, you see them drinking and cussing and whatever, you know what I mean? Like you said, everything except for grown-ups do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, but it made us see that, oh, when you drink, this is how you're supposed to act.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not fighting unless
Yeah,
you was
'cause
around
we
fighting.
always saw somebody
Yeah.
get drunk and fight. And everybody
And
like
you
berating him
trip-
and you watch him. Like, I don't want to be that dude. When I grow up.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Exactly.
All the parties I've gone to, the people who were the most hot mess got a late start on it.
Exactly.
So the girls who would fuck everybody were the ones who parents sent her to an all-girls school and there was never a boy around, right?
Mhm.
So she didn't get a kiss when she the age appropriate time where she should have got kissed. I don't know what age appropriate that. Maybe that's 11 or maybe it's 14. I don't know. But by the time she's 20, she's a raging nut job and she's jumping on everybody,
Exactly.
right? There's guys who nobody drank in their house and all of a sudden they go to college and they're just perpetually blotto out drunk because they don't know what moderation is. So it's
Exactly.
all this kind of like who raised you to be a
Exactly.
hot mess once you get any sort of what's the word I'm looking for? You get any sort of lubricant in you, you know, whether it's a beer or a joint or
Exactly.
cocaine or whatever the people at your clique is giving you.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden they gotta call, you know, a doctor because you done drunk yourself to death or you coked out in the back. You know, all this stuff like, who's that new guy and why is he a hot mess?
Fight everybody.
Yeah, he's trying to fight everybody. Exactly.
Passed out
Exactly.
somewhere.
So you get to this point where you go, I like so-and-so, I don't like to hang out with him because he fights too much or because so-and-so drinks too much. Or I've had women who just out mess, and I got to fend guys off of her because and I'm not your man or your brother. Why is this now my job?
Exactly.
And now these guys, you know, hungry as fuck, just want to knock my block off because I'm, you know,
Exactly.
man. So these are the days.
You're right. You're right about that.
So yeah, I don't know. It's
It's something to be proud of, though.
what's to be proud of?
This day. To me, I would say it's something to be proud of.
It is.
For real. Like, most people probably wouldn't look at it like that. Like you said, they just don't care, you know.
Hello.
Everybody tied to their own opinion, though.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Vaughn. So yeah, just totally threw me with that. Now I have to come up with a rule about phones, cause you just not take the call.
yeah.
So yeah, Juneteenth, man. How would you stand this day up? How would you get people next year Juneteenth to be like to treat it with 10% more kind of vibe and vigor, and someone else needs oh, you have a lighter, and someone else, you know.
I mean, man, you gotta talk about it, you know. You
No, I think you have to do something about it. I think if you did something, and so next week we're gonna make it a thing for Juneteenth, people will be like, oh, what's, and then he does that every year. Before you know it, someone else will make it part of their family. You know what I mean? So it's sort of, I think it sort of starts with the person talking, like you. So I'm perpetually talking about it on YouTube, to sort of kind of get the same kind of vibe going. But I mean, if I had to come up with a system to make people, not make people, but to encourage people to seriously run at this, I think it would be barbecues and drinking.
Yeah, I would say that too.
At the early, and other people will begin to percolate and they'll write stories about it and so on.
A national cookout.
Yeah, a national cookout.
Yeah.
Juneteenth. Yeah. 3 weeks before July 4th. So like a prep cookout before a black cookout before the, yeah. So, I don't know, but there seems to, this is definitely a holiday for people who fall back to, who can trace their lineage back to slavery, right? So there's a lot of black people who don't care about this. Their family weren't here, you know. Some come from Africa proper. Some are Caribbean. They had a very different kind of deal, and their freedom came sooner than our freedom did by a lot. I mean, I think that there's a sort of an issue with men and women in the community. I call it the community, the culture.
Right. Yeah.
And I think some of that has to be solved. I mean, I think black women who view themselves as, both are kidding themselves because, yeah, you're with the women and you're voting for Hillary, but Hillary does a lot of bad stuff in the community. You know what I mean? So now you're half of the flag that you're flying is doing in the men in your community. How can you know what I mean? How can that be a positive thing? How can I look at you and say you're good for the community? Just like the guys have different. But if you're one of these guys who are perpetually about conflict, and you want to be around all these women and children, I think something's gonna have to happen. You can't be one of these dudes who just are perpetually hating on somebody and expect to get to the next level. So, yeah, I think there has to be like a giant council. Who's the most popular men and women in the country? They need to sit down and tell us what the next step is.
That would be a good fact, though. That would be a good fact. Yeah, to see something like that happen.
Yeah.